Associate Professor George Gatsias is pleased to have the opportunity to share a few remarks about the cultural policy and digital currency in cultural markets. Digital transactions culture, global regulation and global info cash, GIC. In the HOBA conference, he is afraid he had to fit rather a lot into his presentation, and so some of the arguments are a bit compressed. He has dealt with the role of the digital cultural policy and administration in cultural markets, the definition of the info-communication landscape and info-communication globalization together. He has also dealt with the introduction of the info-communication model, mobile phones and digital transactions culture and European digital agenda. So he would like to spend a bit more time to explain about the cultural policy, digitization of cultural products and cultural markets. In addition, he would like to introduce the multicultural digital payment model, the Code of Digital Transactions, CODTRA, and the digital currency, Global Info Cash, GIC. Finally, he would like to recommend strongly the digital tax payment culture, DTPC, as a global mechanism and digital payments culture which consists of the three-pronged action program. First of all, about cultural policy and administration in digital markets. Digital cultural policy can contribute to introduce cultural management and administration models in the info-communication landscape, regulate cultural markets both globally and locally, digitally transform cultural goods, products and services, develop the digital tax payment culture, DTPC, by introducing the global info cash, GIC, and public interest principles in cultural markets. Second, a few remarks about digital technology and cultural goods. Digital technology is everywhere. Production sector. Digitization of the cultural production process of turning cultural products into a digital cultural product that is sold. Trade sector. Digitization of trade products and services, i.e. Financial sector, cultural markets. Communication and cultural sectors. Digitization of information, education and entertainment, i.e. cultural and creative industries, info-communication industry. Everyday economic activities, i.e. banking, cloud services, digital payments, credit card payments by using mobile phone tools and applications. Government bureaucratic systems, electronic tax system, email services for official communication in public and private sectors. Within this context, the role of cultural policy makers in the info-communication landscape is how to build, maintain and modify traditional cultural management and policy-making models, which are very important tools for introducing digital payment systems in cultural markets. For example, cultural policymakers should understand the important role of digital technology in order to introduce administration models for managing effectively the production of cultural goods. Changes have occurred not just in managing cultural institutions and payment systems but also in the production process of developing cultural goods both globally and locally. In particular, the digitalization process of cultural policy involves activities in one or more of the following broad areas of concern. First, digital preservation of cultural goods. Preservation by converting cultural activities and cultural products into digital format. For example, preservation of cultural heritage. According to the UNESCO's Charter on the Preservation of Digital Heritage, resources of information and creative expression are increasingly produced, distributed, accessed and maintained in digital form, creating a new legacy, the digital heritage. Second, digital dissemination of cultural goods. In particular, dissemination of cultural goods by using the digital networks such as broadband networks, i.e. the cultural and creative industries' content is digital, info-communication content. For example, dissemination activities can be aimed at global distribution of cultural activities, cultural heritage and cultural goods by using broadband networks in cyberspace and info-communication platforms together with digital payment systems, i.e. the Code of Digital Transactions, CODTRA. Third, digital creation of cultural goods. In particular, the digital creation of cultural goods involves all the activities which can convert the cultural goods into digital format. For example, digital creation of cultural goods. The digital creation of cultural goods involves all the activities which can convert the cultural goods into digital format. For example, the introduction of the info-communication industrial sectors to activate, engage, and transform cultural goods into digital formats is part of the process for creating cultural markets in recent cultural and economic crisis. The info-communication landscape, ICL, is the type of digital space which consists of the digital technology payment systems, cloud computing services, the multifunctional info-communication devices, all type of mobile phones, computers, tablet PC, etc., and broadband networks in which all national economic, cultural and political systems become open, transparent and accountable to info-communication regulation mechanisms, and all national state systems needed to behave according to the logic of multicultural public interest principles both globally and locally. With this context, the info-communication globalization is the type of globalization which is defined by the participatory Internet, the global culture, digital transactions, the net generation, the info-communication landscape. Info-communication regulative mechanisms and multicultural public interest principles in which all economic, cultural and political systems become open, transparent and accountable in free market economies. The evolution of the Internet is a reality. According to Garcia's 2014, the Internet has radically changed how cultural organizations, political parties, banks and tax systems interact with their citizens, customers and manage their everyday operations systems. The Internet together with the digital cultural policy has become a vital cultural force and a driver of economic growth in developed and developing countries. The new Internet is different in many ways than the old Internet. Garcia's pointed out that digital transactions have changed how tax systems operate and governments function in the recent cultural and economic crisis. Mobile contactless payments together with plastic credit and debit cards are the main drivers to develop the digital payments culture in our everyday transactions. This picture outlines that the info-communication devices platform is a reality. The info-communication device platform is now a 4-screen world. And maybe 5-screen soon. According to Garcia's 2014, the Internet is becoming interactive and participatory in the recent crisis. IBM predicts that 1 trillion devices will be connected to the Internet by 2015. The Internet has radically changed how cultural organizations, political parties, banks and tax systems interact with their citizens, customers and manage their everyday operations systems. Technological options should be translated into social, cultural and economic realities in South European countries. Most European countries have been living with plastic credit cards and other payment systems. Within this context, the info-communication content, the info-communication services and the info-communication networks together with the multifunctional info-communication PC, i.e., tables, smart mobile phones, etc., are likely to lead to digitization not only of the tax and financial systems but also of payment transactions in cultural markets. Digital technology is challenging the existing global free market structures by making a reality of the digital transactions both locally and globally. So the figure outlines the info-communication model and the emerging info-communication platforms in cultural markets, which are Infocom Networks Platform, for example, cloud computing is a reality. Infocom Devices Platform, for example, smart mobile phone is a reality. Infocom Content Platform, for example, the digital form of voice, text, videos, pictures in cultural and creative industries is a reality. Infocom Services Platform, for example, the digital form of payment services is a reality. Infocom Security Platform, for example, the security protocols and regulations for the digital transactions and payment system has not been developed yet. He introduces the info-communication model as a methodological business tool not only to understand the role of digital technology in recent cultural, political, social and economic crisis but also to develop info-communication technologies, info-communication markets and info-communication regulations both globally and locally. This figure outlines the emergence of digital payment systems in cultural goods. According to Garcia's, the revolution of digital currency and cloud computing banking services, together with the introduction of transparent, reliable and accountable multicultural payment models such as CODRA, and regulative mechanisms for producing digital money such as GIC will challenge seriously cyber laundering, which is encouraged by the recent introduction of the Bitcoin as a global virtual currency in a global free market economy. The future is mobile. The mobile phone as digital wallet is a reality. According to Garcia's 2014, mobile payments, with mobile phones and purchasing data change traditional payment models, i.e., paper money payments models, in the global free market economy. Within this context, mobile payments and mobile financial services, MFS, as the wave of the future, are creating multicultural payment models such as CODRA and are introducing the digital form of money such as GIC. Kroes Neely, Vice President of the European Commission responsible for the digital agenda, pointed out a range of services using standardized technology, widely available on mobile, like NFC, near-field communication, supported by proven security solutions and easy billing. Not to build new walled gardens, but as a platform for choice and convenience, at less cost. Member states support our broadband targets, and many of them actively call for a digital single market. Our proposals will help deliver both of those goals. We are now approaching the midpoint of the digital agenda. It's a chance to take all the knowledge and experience gathered in the last 3 years, and use it, focus on what must be delivered. Our target of universal basic broadband coverage, by the end of 2013. Tomorrow's world is a connected world. No policymaker, and no industry player, should be making plans on any other basis. Moreover, GATSIAS, 2014, pointed out that in countries such as Greece, Cyprus and Spain, the serious problems of traditional banking infrastructures, the bureaucratic management systems and the lack of paper money to support economic development, growth and investment lead us to suggest that digital phones as mobile wallets and QDRA are a practical way to emerge from the crisis. The QDRA and the GIG are the driving forces for the introduction of the digital payments culture to the banking system in order to enhance their digital trustworthiness in the eyes of their customers. This type of dynamic multicultural system of payments such as QDRA seeks to emulate the functionality of a global ecosystem of regular physical form of money in monetary free market economy. The most important functions of the QDRA as a dynamic multicultural payment ecosystem are the following. Authenticate the citizen through the use of reliable encryption system. Store and transfer value both globally and locally. Secure payment process. Create specific digital rights transactions which are subject to public interest principles. Potential interbanking cooperation and global regulation point to still greater opportunities for sharing financial content between as well within the banking institutions by using cloud computing services in their banking services. According to the Info Communication Landscape, QDRA and the Global Info Cash, GIC, research report, all banking institutions, investment and credit banks, face the necessity of achieving the digital transformation of their management and administrative systems by introducing a dynamic payment management model such as the Code of Digital Transactions, QDRA. This dynamic payment model is likely to empower bankers to be flexible, accountable and reliable by effectively managing financial transactions both locally and globally. The Code of Digital Transactions, QDRA, as multicultural payment model in global free market economy is likely to help Greek and Cypriot citizens/users/voters to be accountable to their debt responsibilities. Understand the serious role of the public interest in the banking decision-making process. Have digital access to appropriate financial sources. Be well informed about their financial and human rights in the financial info communication globalization. Set up an appropriate digital mechanism for structuring and displaying the banking decision-making process. Articulate their ideas about the future of banking transactions. The credit cards transactions and the mobile phone as digital wallet for everyday transactions. Protect their basic transaction rights such as the participatory freedom in free market global economy, digital access to financial information, validity of transparency in all financial services, etc. Recently, digital payments are gradually emerging in our everyday life. Mobile phones and digital transactions are everywhere in Greece and Cyprus, and there is no turning back. Web, social media and mobile payments are remaking daily life for Greek and Cypriot people, from how they work to how they pay. In this digital revolution, the Greek and Cypriot people have new expectations for how they interact with each other and with product and service providers. The QDRA payment model is a model for producing, managing and distributing the global info cash, GIC, is likely to transform Greek and Cypriot people into empowered consumers/investors/citizens who want seamless and secure digital transactions experiences tuned expressly to their needs. Within this context, the Digital Tax Payments Culture, DTPC, is working as a global dynamic mechanism for introducing digital payment culture, global regulations and multicultural public interest principles in order to mitigate the impacts of the cultural and economic crisis. The Info Communication Research Society, ICRS, introduces the digital tax payment culture which consists of the following three-pronged action program. Legal Standards for Global Info Cash, LSGIC. Global Info Cash Transaction Rights, GICRT. Global Info Cash Multicultural Policies, Strategies and Regulations. The multicultural payment model QDRA is likely to help the European Union and in particular the South European countries, such as Greece, Cyprus, Spain, Italy, Portugal, and France to cut spending in their public sector, collect their taxes, improve their services and products, reduce their prices in the free market economy, restore trust in their banking and financial sectors, maximizing profit for their citizens. Be transparent and accountable in their policy making. Introduce local-focused and global-ranged regulatory bodies. Protect their citizens from Bitcoin digital pyramid. Introduce proactive digital tax systems both globally and locally. The global InfoCash as the reliable digital form of future money is likely to help all governments around the world who want to reform their banking system, collect taxes, reform their bureaucratic systems and cut spending. Develop a real economy with digital touch and global reach. Be transparent and accountable in their policy making. Introduce local-focused and global-ranged market and tax regulative mechanisms. Creating a multicultural digital mechanism, MDM, for regulating free market economies. More information about the digital currencies, global regulations, cultural policy and administration, website www.globalinfocash.com. References: George Gatsias, 2012, Infocommunication Globalization and the Global InfoCash, GIC. A Practical Way for Greece to Emerge from the Crisis in P. Liagavas, Greece. Economics, Political and Social Issues, Nova Publishers, USA. George Gatsias, Contract Paper Money and Bitcoin Culture. The Global InfoCash, GIC, as a digital currency with global touch and local reach. Book, forthcoming 2014. George Gatsias, 2001, The Dynamics of Regulation. Global Control Local Resistance, Ashgate 2001, UK. George Gatsias, Infocommunication Globalization and Digital Tax Payments Culture. The Greek Crisis and the Global InfoCash, The Debt Crisis in the Eurozone. Social Impacts, Petropoulos and G. Sobnoglu, Cambridge Scholars Publishing, England, forthcoming, 2014. George Gatsias, Cultural Policy, Administration and Infocommunication Landscape. The Cultural Management Model, Infocommunication Cultural Management, ICCM, International Journal of Social Ecology and Sustainable Development, IJSCSD, Special Issue, Volume 5, Issue 3, forthcoming July to September 2014.